Hello, and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Sunday, December 22nd, 2024, and today's topic will be planning art goals. And it'll be something a little different, although we will be sketching. But I'll be talking about how I plan and also just different ideas and principles and sort of what I'm using these days. And it will be specifically about art goals going forward, because that's kind of what a lot of us do at the end of the year, is to kind of plan the next year, which is pretty smart. And then but yeah, before we get into that, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and to build a sketching habit, which is part of the planning, actually. And I'll talk about all of that. And I'm going to set a 10-minute timer. It may be kind of a long video because it's a lot of information, but it's good and useful. So yeah, I started a 10-minute timer. So I think that it's fitting to do this on Sunday because that's usually when I do my weekly review, and that's from Getting Things Done, or GTD, which is kind of what got me into planning and organizing my life, basically. So yeah, it's been really helpful. So some of this will be from that, by David Allen. It's a book by David Allen, and I got into it a long time ago, and I pretty much use all of it, except I've adapted it for the way that I do stuff. So, but to begin with, yeah, let's just kind of do some sketching. I'm gonna draw a horizon line right here. And I thought that that was fitting because in the GTD system, there's the idea of horizons of focus. And so I thought maybe I could incorporate some basic drawing. So that's where I'm going to put this, because my channel isn't really about self-improvement, although it's a big part of why I do art and like how I approach it, because it has really improved my life. So but yeah, I'll just put it in the basic drawing. So yeah, like a horizon line. So I'm just going to call it horizon. Now in GTD, it's called horizons of focus. And basically, there's 6 levels. And so I'm going to draw this. So I'm going to create like an axis. I never remember like the XY thing. But yeah, I don't remember. Is this X? I'm not sure. I won't put it on there. But yeah, I'll just create this, and then so down here, make sure I'm on the camera. As far as basic drawing is concerned, you can draw like a square shape, and because of the horizon, you're seeing the top of it. And at this level, let's draw a little person. This is the next action if you're going off of the GTD system. And I'm just going to call it actions. And then let's just go through like the different horizons first. So you start to see a little bit more of the well, it's going away if you do it that way. It's not going upwards. So you see more of the let's keep drawing a person here. So at this level is projects, and I'll explain, well, there's the book, it'll explain it, but I'm just going to explain it like the way that I use it and the way that I understand it. So at this level, we'll just make this platform be like straight. I'm just drawing stick figures here. So at this level, it would be I call this, it's areas of responsibility, but I call it life areas. That just kind of stuck with me. And then as you go upwards, so there's 6 total. So let's put some shading on it. That'll help. Alright, let's take our time with this. There's a lot of information. So on this next level is the goals. And we sort of throw around these words, kind of like goals, kind of like everything can be a goal, but I use it kind of specifically, and even then it's tailored towards the way that I think about things and the way that I approach things. So in this next one, you see more of the underside of the platform. So this is the 5th level, so we'll call it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And at this level, this is the vision. And then up here, oh yeah, I didn't draw people, so I gotta draw, see less of the person. Then you hardly see the person up here. So this level is called the purpose. It's level 6. Now he uses different terms for these. This is like the runway or something like that, but this is what I use. It's the same concept. Okay. Plus you get kind of a perspective lesson a little bit. I mean, it's not exact, but it works. So now that I illustrated that, I'll talk about what they are. Again, this is pretty much GTD, but then I sort of came up with my own sort of way of utilizing this. So I'm just going to summarize it. So purpose is, yeah, life purpose and like mission statement, that kind of thing. The vision is kind of like your dreams, and like it's a way of describing kind of like goals, but it's more not really thinking about how to accomplish it, but rather just what you're wanting, or like what you envision, like ideally, kind of what you wish would happen. And then, or dream of happening. And then here for goals, I put, so I'll add some, maybe I'll use some different colors as an excuse to use different color pens, which is always fun. So purpose could also mean like your mission. And then vision, it's like your dreams. And then goals could be actually goals. So I kind of like doing it this way, where I just say that it's going to be 1 to 3 year goals. So I kind of specifically like keep goals at 1 to 3 years. And I'll go into detail about that in a second. And then that's 10 minutes. I'll start another one. I've got a few more to go. I won't be able to cover everything, but if you're interested, just feel free to ask me in the comments. There's a lot more to this that I could talk about, although I know my channel isn't really about that. But it's what I use. It's kind of the engine under the hood. So for life areas, I use 8 of them, and I could do a whole video about that. But I'll put 8 in parentheses, but then they're just basically your responsibilities, which is a really long word to write by hand, by the way. And then projects are basically, I'm gonna put 1 year, but it's really like 1 to 12 months. It's kind of a good way to think about it for me. Again, I'm adapting this to the way that my mind works. And actions are, I guess I'll use gray. Actions are basically your to-dos. Okay. So that's the horizons to get us started. Make some room here. So the next thing I'll go over is, like I said, so one thing that is important for me is the life areas, or like the responsibilities and stuff. And I have 8. Like it just kind of, over the years, that's the number that works for me, like life areas. And so to talk about that, I'll just list them over here. Are we in the camera? And I mean, this could be, so I'll call it life areas. I mean, this could be different for everyone. I have my own like reasonings that works for me. But the first one, and the words have kind of just evolved over the years for me. Like this is what resonates. So the first one is spirit, but it's, or soul, or spirituality, or whatever. I'm not really here to talk about what works for you, but this is just an example of what works for me. And then I have like thought, which like the mind basically. And then or the heart. And then I call this one body, but it's the body. Or, I mean, you can go in and this is kind of another topic, but there's activities that go into these things. So like for your body, it would be like exercise and nutrition and stuff like that. That's kind of beyond the scope of this video. Next, I call it finance or money. And then I call this one vocation. That just kind of stuck with me, although it also has to do with career and whatnot. And also like avocation. I've talked about some of these things in some other videos you may have noticed. Like the idea of art being a vocation, but also it could be an avocation, which means kind of like a hobby. But I put that together because it can kind of switch. It can kind of go back and forth with it being a hobby, but also a career. Next, I just call it relation, but it's relationships. It's just easier to write, plus it rhymes with vocation. And then next, I call this one world, but it's basically the environment, like the external world, the community, and stuff like that. So these are just the words for these life areas that resonate with me and have kind of just stuck. But the principle is that of balance, of you just kind of want to balance your goals basically. And you may have seen this kind of thing where it's like a wheel. So I just draw it like this. And then each of these, so there's 8 of them, which happens to coincide with Buddhism. So that's a nice synchronicity there. But so a long time ago, I did the artist way, which kind of really opened my mind, and I didn't even realize that that's what I needed at the time. But well, you know how they say sometimes you get what you need, not what you want. So what I was wanting was sort of to get better at art. And so I got the artist way, which, yeah, just kind of expanded my mind to be more spiritual about stuff, which that's just me though. But yeah, there's just like a lot of synchronicity, which is from Carl Jung. But anyway, 8 works for me, like these life areas. They pretty much encompass like any situation that I go through. But yeah, that's like another topic. But we'll just draw an arrow. So those are the life areas. Then let's talk about the goals. And I'm just going to focus on like art goals, although the process is similar to like all the, like any goal. So yeah, I like to think of it in terms of 1 to 3 years. And goal setting is an art and a science unto itself. And any of these topics or any of these things could be like it is its own topic. But what I do is connect like the goals with the life areas. So if we kind of group all of them together, then we'll just kind of connect the goals. Now, if you have like a mind mapping, I'm just doing it by hand, but basically if you have a mind mapping software, then this could, like, this is what I use like the mind map for, this kind of thing. So the goals, I have goals for each of the life areas, but then the way like I plan the goals have changed. And again, it's based upon what works for me. So for example, I'm somebody that like I have to build habits in order to do stuff. Otherwise I just completely forget about it. So we'll get to that though. But one thing that helped me was just to kind of think of it as 1 to 3 years. So that's why at the end of the year, it's kind of good to review. I mean, I review it more often than that, but I especially review it. So I usually review stuff like this, like once a week, for example. And then at the end of the year, I definitely would review it again. And as far as like the tools, like I mentioned, like a mind map, if you have like software for that, or you could just have a notebook. So I have all of that. So I have a notebook and just stuff like that. And then, yeah, that's when you would want to think about all of the horizons. So that's 10 minutes. And I'll start another one. We'll keep going. There's a few more things. I'm not going to be able to cover everything, but the next thing is, let's just talk about goals. So we'll move to this area down here. So let's focus on goals. And again, I'm going to focus on just art goals. So art is a vocation, or it's part of my vocation. That's where it fits. And so I'm going to put down, I'll call it art. So art is basically like a responsibility that I feel that, like it's just it's because it's also called areas of responsibilities or something. And so, yeah, it's just something that I feel responsible for, like myself. Again, this could be for like body, it could be like exercise, or just like health or whatever. So another word for it would be like activities. So let's just call it art. Like I have 3 main things for, I'll put in parentheses, vocation, but it's also avocation, because not all of these are career. Some of them are my hobbies. So basically my main things are art, music, and writing for the avocation. So yeah, like some of it will be more vocational, some of it will be more avocational. Now, whenever I was like working at jobs that wasn't art related, I just put that under finance, like as a job. So sometimes it'll be art related and it will still be under like finance. Let's say that I do like a freelance illustration or a commission or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of another topic. But just for now, let's just do this, and then yeah, we'll focus on like art. So let's bring this down here. Make sure we're in camera. So one thing with the goal being 1 to 3 years, I currently, and this is a work in progress, like it's always like that, but I currently call it like create art. But then I go into like more detail and more specifics, like the habits and stuff, which I'll go over. So I currently just call it create art. And then as far as like how long, I just think of it in terms of like 1 to 3 years. So for example, like this year, I definitely created art. And so again, that just sort of is something that I needed to do and needed to think about, like in terms of kind of general, like create art. Because I was like in an art block. When you're kind of blocked, you need to have like a general sort of goal. If you're too specific, you're going to get stuck basically. At least that's what I found. So yeah, it ends up being like 1 to 3 years, like the way I envision it. And then the next thing would be, so you would do that with like, or I do that with like all the life areas I kind of figure out what the main activities are. So for example, like vocation, it's like art, music, and writing, like is my main like activity. Which if someone asks like what you're doing, you could just say like that's what you're doing. Again, this is kind of another topic, but stuff like let's say you're doing something for fun, like playing games or something. I would just put that under like emotion, like something for fun. If you're planning, which is what I'm doing right now, like that's like a thought, like or like a like mental area, life area. I just call it thought. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is projects, because that's pretty important. So I'm going to come over here and put projects. Okay, we're going to have to do it this way. So let's draw a line to projects. Just a little bit of sketching done here. It's a diagram. So projects, we said that it was 1 year or like 1 to 12 months. So I think that's a good way to kind of envision them. I feel like if it takes longer than that, it starts to go into the goals, but then that's why it's good to review at least quarterly and then yearly the projects that you're working on. And projects are basically made up of actions. So that's how they're related. So projects are basically just a bunch of actions that go together. And then the action is actually like, well, in GTD it's called like the next action. So it has to be something that is like the literal like next thing that you can do. And that's what your to-dos should be. It should be something like research something, or pick up something, or or do sketching or something like that, which I'll get into because that goes into like the goal of creating art. So yeah, before I get too confused here, so let's go to goals. I mean, it can be confusing to explain it, but this is basically how I've been doing stuff for definitely this year, but like over the past like several years. So yeah, for goals over here, I'm just gonna write like SMART goals. And so you may have heard of SMART goals. You can look up exactly what they mean. I'll just kind of talk about it real quick. So they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So this is where habits come in, and this is something that is important to me, like the habit part of it. So just an example, so keep the SMART goals in mind. Now I was actually going to use a whiteboard because I love doing this kind of thing on like a whiteboard. So yeah, you might want to do that too once you kind of hear what this video is about. Yeah, keeping in mind the idea of like a SMART goal, the way that I break down like this 1 to 3 year create art goal is I create like a habit. So I'm just going to write down habits, and then I just use like the SMART goal as like a way to create the habit. So specific could be sketching. So that's the habit that would help me to create the goal of create art. And then, so that's the specific part. The measurable part would be something like 5 minutes. Now there was a time where I just did 1 minute, so it could be whatever, however long. I'm just going to put 5 minutes. And speaking of that, it's been 10 minutes, so I'll start yet another timer, and maybe that'll be able to wrap up this video. So that's like the measuring of it, is 5 minutes of sketching. Like the specific has to be, so I picked sketching, which I love to sketch, and it's something that I can do. It's achievable. That's the next thing. And so it's yes or no. Like, you can either do it or not. Like, I know I can sketch. You could say doodle if there was a time where I was just doodling. Do it simple enough to where you can say that yes, you can do it. And then the next thing, the relevance, that's why I just group it with the goal, because that's the relevance, the create art. And since the goals, they go with each life area has like goals, then it'll feel meaningful. And then next is the time bound. So for time bound, I would put something like daily sketching. So I always say in these videos, welcome to our daily sketching routine. So once you put all of this together, like, that's the routine, and that has more to do with like time management, which isn't what this video is about. So, and yeah, I can only like talk about so much and stay on topic. So planning art goals, that's basically what I use. Like, I've used it for a while now, but like really a lot this year. This is what sort of bubbled up to the top as far as like what worked for me. So for example, I just kept building like the daily sketching habit, which was at the beginning of the year, and then about 6 months ago I started to do I started to post again on my YouTube channel. And so I'll talk about that for a few minutes, because that goes into the idea of like projects. So that's what ties like the habits and the goals into like the projects. Okay, I'll put that over here for projects. So just as an example, I'll use like YouTube, and then specifically my channel, Art of Sedone. And there is like, I can do another video that kind of talks about like the different tools. So there's like, I have a notebook, and then I have apps like I have an iPhone, so like Things is my favorite thing to use for like to list the projects. And so I can put like all of this stuff in there, but you can use whatever. Like, that's just what I like to use. And I also use Notion, and then I have like a physical notebook, because I like to like write things down. Like, it feels more tangible, because part of that is that's just how I learn things and how I think about things. I like to see it. But yeah, like, so this would be like a project, and then you would have like a list, like, so for your goals, like everything. So the way it works for me, and the way like that I found that works, is that I don't try to accomplish my goal. Like, I have it, like I write it down, but it's like implied that, or yeah, it's implicit that I want to accomplish it. Otherwise, why would it be a goal of mine? And so then I just focus on like completing projects, and then eventually like the goal will happen, and then when I review it, I'll just change like the name of it. So yeah, going back to like the project of like doing YouTube, for example. So I had already been doing like the habit of sketching for 5 minutes every day. And then I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna start posting on my channel again. So which I did. And so from here, you would come up with like how that would work. So it would be something like obviously like recording the video is part of that project. But then if you're asking, well, what is this? This is like it's a to-do, or it's an action. So that's how that connects with that. have this project, like to actually do it, it's several actions. So I have to record the video, I have to edit. But notice that since my channel is an art channel and I sketch and stuff in every video, like if this isn't happening, like if this is how the habit is connected to it. So if that's not happening, then this won't happen. Like the project won't happen. And so like that's how, you know, to start with like the smallest, which is like the habit. And before you publish it, it could be you work on sketching every day, and then you might incorporate, okay, I'm going to record, but like not post it on YouTube, for example. You could start recording the video. I mean, it's up to you, but that's just like an example. But yeah, that's a lot of information. But basically you would just do that with everything. Now notice that the vocation area, life area, for me has a lot of activities, like have some major activities and then like habits. And I don't do that with everything. But I have a goal for every life area, but they're not all the same like priority like all the time. So it just depends. So now that I've been doing a lot more of like posting on YouTube, like this is kind of my priority for the day. Like I definitely kind of center things around it. And that's just kind of how life works. It's just really based upon priorities, which is another topic, because you can plan all of this out, but then it just depends on what's the most important. And then everything else is kind of revolving like this wheel. It kind of revolves around like whatever the main priorities are, and it changes. So like, for example, last year, I was actually working at a job that wasn't art. Yeah. Like all of this was still happening. It's just that the priority was more on just the job, which is like a financial thing, because I was just doing it for money. It wasn't my calling. But now the priority has shifted to like art kind of stuff. So yeah, as we got about a minute left. I know that that's a lot. Feel free to ask me any questions, and I can go into more detail. I wanted to have like a blog or something that is more about this, because like with YouTube, it's kind of important to be in like your niche, as they say. But yeah, I'll always include some sketching because I just kind of think like that in visual terms. And there's a lot more topics too, such as like time management, which is like I'd have to do everything sort of as a routine. So for example, recording these videos I do like in the morning, and so I kind of have to have routines throughout the day, and then and like sleep and stuff. But yeah, those are some other topics. And I talked a little bit about like kind of like the spirit part of it. That's what yesterday's video was kind of about, because that's sort of like the story that you tell about your experiences, and it's different for everybody. So with that said, I want to thank you for joining me today for our daily sketching routine. It was a little different, but I think helpful. It was helpful for me. And if you like my work and these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.